friend. Today we are going to be talking with Sarah Noffke, an amazing writer, and we're going to be talking about best practices for productivity. She writes a lot of books. Let's hop into the interview. So first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your writing, and your books?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. So my name is Sarah Noffke, and that's the name I write under. I'm a USA Today bestselling author, and I write mostly urban fantasy. That's where my niche is right now, and a fantasy, and I dabbled in sci-fi. All my books have a light sci-fi element, but I hide it. And I have 87 books that I've written inside of, I forget how many series, like 13 series or something. Yep. And I have some really long series. I have some shorter ones that are 3 books, 5 books, and then other ones that are more like 12 to 24. And then I mostly at this stage in my career write with LMBPN. I write with Michael Anderley because we work really, really well together. Perfect. So that's a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Cool. And so like the time span of when you first started writing till now, you've got like 80 some books and everything. So when did you start writing and publishing?
So I didn't start publishing until 2014. I started writing about 2012. I mean, as writers, I think we were always writing. Am I right?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say. It's like, well, I started writing when I was 7
right.
in a tree. But whenever I first started writing professionally and wrote something that was of substantial value,
yeah,
would be about 2012, but I finished that in 2014. And then I published my first series, November of 2014.
Okay. Perfect. Very cool. That's awesome. You've done a lot of books and everything. So that's just amazing. And I can't wait to talk more about that and everything. Which of your books are you the most proud of and that you want everyone to read?
It is like choosing a child. And it's like each book series was an evolution for me. And I wouldn't have one without the other. Because I screwed this up a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, which is something that I've talked about in the past, because learn from my mistakes. But my point is that I had to kind of have some of the, I'm going to call them not so good series in order to learn what works and write the better ones. Anyways, that doesn't answer your question. Go with the ones that are good now. Skip the other ones. No, the one that put me on the map and has really been our bread and butter for the last 3 years is called, it's in the Beaufort universe. That's Beaufont.
Okay.
And the first one in that series, it's a universe that has 3 series. The first series is called The Unstoppable Liv Beaufort, and it starts with the rebellious sister. And it's urban fantasy. And that is the one that the readers love, and we just keep coming back to because there's just tons of potential. So if you're going to start with anything, start there.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about that with us and everything. What made you kind of want to be a published author and to like make this your income and your business and everything?
Great question. My background is college administration, which I value a ton, because if it wasn't for college, then obviously I wouldn't be here. Right. So I wanted to do that, but it was kind of, how do I put it? Soul sucking.
Sure.
I didn't get to experience my creative passion. And I think that on a deep level, I kept feeling that. And I would go to the library every single day because I worked at the university and the library was right next to it.
Okay.
This is a side story.
Love it.
I have lots of them. I derail constantly. Just ask Michael.
Good.
I'm glad you can relate. So I would go to the library on my lunch breaks, and I just felt lost at that stage in my life. Mm-hmm. And I would walk the aisles, and I would have my hand on the spines of the books, and I would have my eyes closed, and I would just run along there, and I would stop randomly, and I'd pull out a book, and I'd be like, "Is that the book I'm looking for?" And I'd be like, "No." But also I was always checking out books because I loved them. Yeah. And that's going to get to the second part of your question, which I didn't forget and I will answer. But it took me a while to realize I was looking for a certain book, and it was the one I needed to write. Because I would go to the library, and my friends would always be like, my colleagues would be like, "Let's go to lunch. Let's do this." And I was like, no. Because I felt lost. I felt like there was something inside of me that needed to come out. Wow. And it was and I have a quote that I coined phrase, and it's one day the story inside of you will want to breathe on its own, and that's when you'll start writing.
That's awesome.
So that's why I felt like I needed to, and I obviously wanted to do it full time, and I need to eat and pay bills. So I want to make money. I don't want to do this as just a hobby, which is what I was doing back then. But to answer the other part of your question, that passion and going to the library and wanting to find books started because I was a reader. And I remember I love young adult fantasy. And is that what you write?
I do. So I love fantasy. So I'm kind of right now I'm in two genres. I'm currently focusing on my rom-com, but like I love my fantasy and stuff and just can't wait to get into that too. So but yeah, I kind of like to dabble in a bunch of different genres, which I'm trying to stick to one and then I'm jumping into the other once I have this one a little more stable.
And that's okay, because it's about, where your passion goes. And I think they work together. Fantasy and rom-com, like they really can go hand in hand. And so it's good skill set. But so whenever I was, after college, I started reading, because before in college, I couldn't really read because you're writing textbooks.
Right.
And I remember picking up Philip Pullman, his Dark Materials. And that series is a middle grade sci-fi fantasy.
Cool.
And I remember, and this happened with Harry Potter, it happened with the Hunger Games, but it first started with Philip Pullman. So I am going to give him credit. And I remember sitting there going, I want to write something that makes people feel like I do right now.
Oh, cool. Transported
to a new universe. I felt smarter when I read his books. When I read Hunger Games, I thought I was Katniss and I was a warrior.
Right.
I mean, I remember walking through the Nebraska Zoo and thinking like, oh, I'm in Hunger Games right now. Like, I just have to survive. No, I was like, going to find a toddler somewhere. Right. So my point is, like I said, I can really go off on tangents. Hence the reason I have 87 books. It's just,
that's okay.
But my point is that the reason I started this and the reason that I went to the library and I wanted to find that book that I had to write was because of other authors and them transporting me and going, I want to do that for somebody,
Right.
like
Yeah.
really make readers have experiences. And since then, with COVID and pandemics, I've gotten the coolest notes from readers going, thank you. Like, I needed to not be in this world. I needed to be in, so I bet you hear that too.
Oh, that is so awesome. Yeah, and what a good feeling that is to get a message from someone that says something like that. Cause yeah, the last 2 years have been crazy. So like, that's totally helping them out and making them, be able to escape.
Yeah. And on the hard days when we don't want to write, you need that motivation. Cause sometimes it's like, no, I want to Netflix and chill, but when you know that what you're doing is meaningful and more than just, like writing a story inside your head, but it actually means something to other people. So anyways,
I love that. That's great. I love it. I love it. Rabbit hole and all, rabbit trail and all. I love it all. It's good. So you had mentioned Philip and his books that really helped inspire you. What are 4 other books that you recommend that are your favorites of all time?
Oh dear. Wow.
It's hard.
I know it is hard. And I've been writing so much that I will admit very guiltily that I don't read as much as I used to.
Yep.
But yeah, so I can start with Philip Pullman. I get to pull that one out. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter. I mean, I've read that before it was cool. My stepmother, of all people, handed it to me and she was like, you have to read this. And I was like, I was 19 in college. And I was like, no, that's not for me. And that was like the summer of 2000, so like, I will take credit. I read it before, the movies and stuff. So that really started me on a fantasy adventure. And then also, like I said, Suzanne Collins, The Hunger Games. I love dystopian. And it wasn't before that I was like, oh, this is cool. Since then, I've written a dystopian series that definitely had some inspiration in that way. But I just don't think that the market is there currently. And I'm going to say that that's maybe a little controversial, but when we're talking about a pandemic, I just don't know that.
Get that.
I would love to return to it because
Oh yeah,
fun.
it's great.
It's inspiring. And I loved writing my dystopian series, but I'm going to tell you, I wasn't the happiest person when I was writing that, you know?
Oh.
So anyways, dystopian wise, that was great. For fantasy, I fell in love with The Night Circus. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, yes. Very good.
Yeah, and I have the quote from Aaron Morgenstern on my wall.
Cool.
When we're talking about writing, I'll just read it for you. It says, you can tell a tale that takes up residence in someone else's soul, becomes their blood and self and purpose. That tale will move them and drive them, and who knows what they might do because of it, because of your words.
Wow.
That's the last line. Sorry, spoiler. Last line from The Night Circus. And I remember reading that and going, oh my God, I need to write something like that becomes somebody's purpose, you know? So anyways, inspiration.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Her writing transports you. I mean, it is the coolest. So that one was one of my fantasy ones that I was like, oh, I got to do something like this. So each one of those book series inspired me some way to go, that's my genre. That's my genre. And that's why when you say rom-com do it all, because also when we're saying the market, I mean, if the market goes to fantasy, you've got an in. If it goes to rom-com, you've got another in, you know? So, and then also I love Dan Brown, you know, the Da Vinci Code, but I read all of his stuff. Like if it comes out, I'm on there. And the reason I like that is he makes me feel smarter as a self-admitting dumb reader, you know? So I think that that's a great opportunity for us as writers, you know, to just put in a tiny tidbit, you know, of history or science or something. And especially writing for young adults.
Oh yeah, that's a good reminder. That's a really good idea. And then they're kind of, you know, learning something while reading as well.
Yeah. And I felt the same way when I was reading Philip Pullman, because he sprinkles in physics. And all of a sudden I'm reading this and I'm going, oh, I know about like quantum physics. No, I don't. But I felt like I did. So it made me feel good about myself, which is kind of a little hack that we can do as authors. If we make the reader feel good because they learn something or they have a wish fulfillment, they come back for more.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good little tidbit there.
Good. I'm glad. Anyways, did I answer the question? Those are my series. Yeah,
you did. I'll have to check out some of those books. I haven't read all of them. I read a couple, but they sound like really good books. So have to read them. Perfect. Oh yeah, that's great. And what is your typical writing day like?
Oh man. Ask my daughter and she'll be like, she's a crazy person. It's so true. I'm not writing right now as much as I have been because I decided to take a break because, you know, sanity is important. But I'm very much into regimen. I wasn't in the military or anything like that, but my father's a Marine. And so I definitely take, you know, a page out of his book because I think regimen is definitely going to be, you know, having that consistency will set us up for success. So, you know, I talked about this at 20 books. You know, I'm an adult, apparently, and I could do whatever I want, you know, and I don't have my daughter full time. So I have days when I could just, you know, stay up late and, you know, sleep in and everything. Regimen. So I wake up early. I usually go work out first thing, you know, and even if I'm crunched for time, I always have to work out because it makes it a lot easier to sit in a chair for 12 hours if I know that I've, you know, worked my muscles, burned calories, all that other things. And then I set up, I have this long list of, I don't have any right now, sticky notes. And I put them like back to back to back to back, and I line out sprints so that whenever I get back, and I usually shut myself away, I turn off my phone, and I sit at this desk and I do 30-minute sprints, and I put them in time. So start at, you know, I wake up at 7, go work out at 8:30, and then I start working maybe at 11. And I'm taking care of everything that has to be taken care of because we just can't have those distractions. And then it's 11 to 11:30 first sprint. And really what I need to accomplish, which is 600 words, 1,000 words. It kind of just depends on the type of book. And then I put in my breaks. My breaks are about 10 minutes long. And I give myself something that is a break.
Okay.
It's getting away from my desk. It's going to have a snack. It's, playing with the cat. It's,
Yep.
Little things like that. It can be stretching. It can be going to check the mail, but it gets me away. And then I come back, and then the next one will start at 11:40 to 12:10.
Okay.
And then I literally do that for 10 hours.
Oh,
It's going to go
wow.
11 to 9 or so. And
Okay.
I'm not going to go too late unless I'm finishing a book. Maybe, if I have a deadline. So I don't know if that explains it, but it's literally just step by step by step.
Perfect.
Keep
Okay,
going.
cool. So you actually do that then, like with the sticky notes, and you put your time and like the 30-minute sprint, and then the next one's the next 30-minute sprint, all for those 9 hours. And then also sprinkled in between those little breaks and whatnot, like playing with the cat or lunch or a walk or something.
Absolutely. Talking to my boyfriend,
Cool.
emailing a friend back.
Yeah.
But I think that those are important, because if I have to look at, a lot of times I have days where I need to do 10,000 words in a day.
Yeah.
If I start the day with go do 10,000, I'm not going to do it, because
Right.
it's like trying to eat a dinosaur, right?
Sure.
But if you take a bite at a time, I feel like it becomes this manageable thing where I'm like, just do 30 minutes. And then you get to go have some, a snack.
Yep.
Just do 30 minutes. And then you get to and it just breaks it up. And by the end, literally 10,000 words. And it was like, oh, that wasn't so hard. Because usually I have to do it again the next day.
There you
I'm
go.
really bad with deadlines, in that I like to wait until the last possible moment, and there's 3 days left and I have to finish. Yeah. So you're in this club?
Yeah. Yes.
We thrive on the deadline. So embrace it and just hope that
it's like that
you.
idea of not being able to finish kind of like pushes you to finish, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm sure you totally get that.
No, you need that fire under your butt.
Right.
And I get it. Michael, he laughs at me because I'll have 6 weeks to finish a book.
Yep.
And I will goof off for about 3 of those weeks. I will take a week where I pretend to write.
Yeah.
I'll take another few days where I lay on the floor and I look at the ceiling. And then I'll take 10 days where I actually write the book. And he's like, you're just, like, why do you do that? And then I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And I'm turning in the book. It's due like at 12 o'clock and I'm turning it in at 11:58. It's like, why are you trying to give me a heart attack? I'm like, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that is hilarious. I'm so happy there's other people like that out there, like me too. That's so good to hear. I mean, and you've had a lot of success, so you've been able to do it and stuff. So that's great. And
I think experience is our friend in this. So
yeah.
My first book I thought was a fluke. And my second book, same thing. My third book, I was, becoming superstitious, and I just kept hoping, and it becomes like a muscle. And now I know I can do it because I've done it, and so when we can look back and go, now this almost becomes a bad thing, because I'm like, I know I can write a book in 10 days, so I'll do it. It doesn't become advisable, but because it's tough physically, mentally. I just usually tank afterwards. But what are with your deadlines? Like, do you have to literally go up against the last minute, or how do you work?
Yeah, I try to, let's see here, like having it done a couple weeks before so that it can, edits and whatnot. But like right now I've been on a writing deadline, and for a book that's, I'm doing it in serials actually. So it's going to be publishing beginning of January, the second episode and everything. So I'm super excited, but I'm in the trenches right now where I'm like, it needs to get done.
You need that fire under you though.
Right. Exactly. So, but it's been good and everything. So I completely get what you're saying and stuff like that makes total sense.
Well, I think that's the reason deadlines are important. It's like, oh, I'm just going to do this, willy-nilly, leisure. No, I need a hard deadline. Put it up for pre-order. Do not give me any wiggle room.
Right. That's what I've had to do, like to actually put it up for pre-order so that I can actually if you don't make this deadline, you're going to lose your pre-order rights. And that cannot happen.
Exactly. Good for you for figuring that out. Because whatever it takes, Now, somebody asked me about like software that like holds you accountable. I don't really agree with some of the ones that like are bombs that will detonate if you don't write and delete. That scares me. I don't need more stress, but find a motivation, right? Preferably a positive one like the pre-orders. I think that's a smart way about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's so awesome. And then you were mentioning to your boyfriend, which I have to jump out and say this. You guys are the cutest couple. Like I saw you guys at 20 books. I'm like, oh, they're so cute. And it's cool. He's from Scotland, right?
Thank you so much. That's really sweet. Yes, he is from Scotland, which makes long distance relationship really, really
Oh yeah.
interesting, especially in a pandemic. But we've
Oh, I
gotten
can imagine.
through so much, and
That's
we met
great.
at 20 books.
That's
So
so
I mean,
cool.
I'll tell you that that's your tribe. Those are your people.
Yep.
That was we met in 2018, but we didn't
Okay.
start dating until probably it was like 2019. And
Perfect.
it was actually 2 years ago, almost to the day that I was in Scotland.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
I went there to research a novel.
Yep.
And I mean, I say this, I was there to research a novel, but then just, happened to, meet up with him. And he was
Cool.
a great tour guide. We just
Cool.
had the most wonderful love story. And I'm so
Yay.
grateful.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear that because like long distance relationships have a special spot in my heart because my husband and I were in a long distance relationship. He was in Australia and I was
No way.
here. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Where are you?
I'm in North Dakota, so in the Midwest and everything. And
Sure.
but yeah, he was in Australia and I was here and it's like, yeah, we were for 5.5 years. So let me tell you, it's
Oh,
doable. You can do it.
that is such an inspiration. I got chills because you always think like, oh, this, like nobody has it as hard as we do.
Right.
Australia, I mean, talk about time zones. I
Right. It's
was
like
just
what,
saying to him,
16-ish hours or something like that. It's crazy. But
y'all
like
are
when you're
16 hours.
right, right. And like when you're about to go to bed, it's like really early there. And so it's like opposites for hours. Like you wake up and he's about to go to bed. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you have to actually make time to make those conversations happen so that, you feel like you're in a relationship still and everything. But it's definitely doable. So
And it proves that, true love withstands the test of
right.
distance and time zones. And now
Exactly.
y'all are together and he's there.
Yep. Yep.
Wonderful. It's such an inspiration and motivation. And
Oh, totally.
congratulations to you guys.
Oh, thank you. And congrats to you guys too for making it work. I'm sure it's much different during a pandemic, I'm sure. Like
Oh,
the obstacles, not being able to like visit or whatnot. But he was able to come for 20 books. And is he still there right now? Or is he gonna be heading back or did he already go back?
yeah. So he went home just about a weekend, a few days ago. I'll
Okay.
go to Scotland for Christmas, which will be so
Oh,
wonderful.
it'll be
And then he'll
magical.
come back with me for New Year's.
Okay.
And it's been a couple of weeks. And that's just kind of what we've been doing. We haven't found a new
Good.
normal because there
Yep.
was pandemic and I would be able to go over there
Yep.
for a week or so, but I have a 10-year-old, so I'm not going to leave her for very long.
Yep.
And he's had to do things like go to Mexico for 15 days in order to get
Oh.
into the country.
Oh yeah,
That's
crazy.
right.
So I can imagine it's been crazy, but I'm glad he was able to come and that you guys have been able to see each other and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, technology helps,
Yeah.
like you said, the time zones. I just said to him this morning because he was showing me pictures of the sunset there, and
Oh,
of course,
cool.
it's cold and wintry in Scotland.
Yeah.
And I was getting up, and the sun was rising, and I was like, "Oh my
Cool.
gosh, how crazy is this?" But hopefully,
Okay.
your husband gets to see his family soon. That's tough in a
Right.
different way.
It is. It is. Yeah. It's been about 2.5 years since he's
Oh,
seen them. So he's really kind of bummed about that. So hopefully we can get them over. We're gonna start their green card thing because Johan, my husband, he actually just became an American citizen just recently. So he was all excited. And
it's exciting.
it was a
That's
process,
amazing.
but he's so happy and I'm happy too. So it was good.
I'll totally understand it. And again, that is just wonderful to hear. And I'll remember that, because
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I just wanted to encourage you that, keep on with it, girl. You're doing good. And it's just it works, when you have the right people together, the right couple, and you love each other, adore each other, you'll make it work.
thank you. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations, y'all.
totally. So I just wanted to mention that, but yeah, got off a little topic there, but oh well, it's all story fodder, right?
It is. It really is.
What advice can you give to writers wanting to like 10x their writing time? So like basically become more productive with their writing sprints, their writing time, getting more written.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, we want to work smart, right? We want to work efficiently. But a
Yeah.
lot of that comes down to experience, figuring out what works for you, what doesn't, everybody's different, and experimenting, and being willing to change things for me, depend on the season, so we're in Christmas right now. So this was a good opportunity for me to take the time off that I much needed, that I banked, because during 2020, I just wrote nonstop because we were in lockdown. So
Right.
might as well maximize time.
Yeah.
Summers are busy again, but winters aren't. So anyways, there's just so many aspects of this answer. Because I feel like it comes down to setting yourself up for success and hacking your life. Right. So whenever I'm in a writing deadline, I make things as simple as possible. I can't think about what I'm going to wear, what I'm going to eat, the bills, everything becomes automated.
Right.
And I talked about it in the presentation, decision fatigue. And you have to take that out because it will bog you down. And so when we're trying to maximize hours, but I found the sprint thing to really work well for me. I found, just keeping things really, really simple, but there's all sorts of different hacks, like waking up an hour early. That used to work for me whenever my daughter was younger. Sometimes it's staying up late, but maximizing time, it's a lot about distractions too, and minimizing those. But the biggest thing I think is passion and the motivation. So when we were talking about that a reader will say, oh, you took me away, you transported me. That's motivation. So a lot of times I will go online when I'm stumbling to write a book. I don't believe in writer's block, and I know that probably sounds controversial, but I just
totally
believe
get it.
good. Because when we say writer's block, it's like we almost create a self-fulfilling prophecy, like, oh, there's going to be something that blocks my creativity. No, there's not. Just get out of your own way. So whenever I do find myself stagnant, maybe not having the motivation to write, I'll go and read reviews, good reviews.
There you go.
I can take something, constructive criticism and stuff, but that will put the fire under me, the passion, and we were also talking a little bit at the conference about burnout, and people kept coming up to me and saying, burnout this, burnout that. That's going to keep you from increasing that writing speed because you're so afraid. And again, it's another self-fulfilling prophecy. People are like, well, you've written all these books, so you're obviously going to be burned out soon. No chance. Like, I'm taking a break right now and it's just driving me bonkers.
I bet you're getting a ton of story ideas though, like new ones, probably.
New ones. It's good to refill the creative vault, but I think it's important just to remember what we tell ourselves become true. So, when we're looking at ways to be efficient, saying, I can write this much, I can do this. Anyways, what I was going to say about burnout, because I think passion is the key to increasing our writing speed. I heard something the other day after the presentation that made me so excited, because it was about somebody that was worried about burnout, and they were talking to somebody else and they were like, yeah, I'm just really worried that, like, because they weren't producing, and they were like, I'm afraid I'm going to burn out. And then the person was like, I don't think you've been lit, and I was like, like, get that passion, because then writing 1,000 words in 30 minutes doesn't become a chore. It doesn't become impossible. And if we tell ourselves that we can, we're going to. I don't feel like I really answered your question adequately, because it's difficult to figure out how to increase writing speed when it's become such a personal thing.
Sure. No, that is really good. I think that you totally answered the question and everything. And I think that it's so important about that passion, like what you're saying, and having that kind of light the fire underneath your butt to get you going and to stay lit for it and everything. Cause like what you were even saying about not believing in oh goodness, what was it? Not believing in, no, my goodness. My gosh. Yes. Not, so for me, like whenever I have, like, if we call it a writer's block, it's because I'm procrastinating and not jumping into it. So it's probably a good reason to go and look at the start. Okay, what's not working? And think, okay, what do I need to change to make it work? So I'm excited to keep that passion lit. So I love that you talked about that, because I think it's really true.
Yeah, good. And I mean, I get it. I've stared at the ceiling like for hours going, what do I do next? But it's not block. It's really just push yourself into the story and be willing to make a mistake. you
Right.
know, be willing to write something that maybe sucks and then come back
Right.
to it, fix it.
Exactly. Then at least it's written and you can edit it and make it better.
Yeah, and learn from your mistakes. So
Right. That's awesome. Perfect. Well, that was a great answer. Okay, so then how do you stay productive so that you can keep writing? So, I mean, when you do have these like, moments where you're staring at the ceiling or whatnot, how do you stay productive with it?
well, I feel like I've touched on it a little bit because a
Yep.
lot of it is that passion. A lot of it's that deadline. You
Yep.
know, I didn't give myself any wiggle room. I didn't give myself a choice. Um, but and it's that passion. Um, and also I think you have to really be hungry for this.
Yep.
You know, if you don't really want this, or you have a backup option, a safety net. One of the ways that I became a full-time author was I took away any opportunity
Hmm.
for there to be a safety net. I didn't have a plan B.
Yep.
And that helped because I really had to push myself. So again, I don't know that I'm really answering it, because productivity to me almost always comes down to emotions.
Yeah.
And are we really lit? Are we really in this?
So do you have any tips for writers and authors maybe watching this that are feeling kind of like they're not lit? Like, how could they find that passion again?
That's a great question. And again, I think it's going to be very personal, but I can speak from experience that whenever I was writing space opera,
Mhm.
I wasn't lit and I wasn't passionate and I didn't want to write it. And my readers will tell you, the ones that are big time fans, that they weren't really into it either because it came through. So
Yep.
a tip is maybe you're not writing in the right thing. Here's what I was doing is space opera was making a lot of money. And that was one of my, it was, plan A, no plan B. So I've got to do whatever makes money so that I make this career work. Well, it doesn't matter if it's popular. My passion wasn't in it. And so I don't read space opera.
Yep.
What was I doing? And then there was, even before that, werewolves were really, really popular.
Yep.
I don't read werewolves. More power to you if you like that. Like everybody has, their interests. But anyways, I went into those for the money and it didn't work. The productivity wasn't there. The success wasn't there. The readership just wasn't there. So my tip is, if you're not finding that passion, if you're not feeling lit, look at what you're writing and maybe you're not there. And even when I started writing fantasy and urban fantasy, I was still writing characters that I thought the readers liked or wanted or whatever. And whenever Michael came to me, and this was right before we started the Live Buffont series, and we had a series of stumbles where we just hadn't hit it big enough to have a series that could withstand a long number of books, which is really what you want, because when you have an entry point and you have readers reading book 1 and just as many reading book 12, that's money, you know, and that's, and we've since been able to take that box set and make a lot more money out of it and then the individual books. But my point is I kept writing these characters that were maybe, flat, and they were what I thought other people wanted. And he said, why don't you write about a young girl, a blonde, short, sassy girl that lives in Los Angeles who doesn't put up with anybody and has a cat and fights for justice and defends the little guy. And I was like, I feel like you're pointing a finger at me. Liv Buffont is a very much more badass version of me. Like, I don't know how to use a sword or fight.
Yep.
But my point is now when I write her, the voice is natural. And that was the series that really put a blockbuster out. And since then, the other main characters are renditions of her. But I can go off on tangents. To find the productivity, to find the passion, write something that you love and be willing to go into what do you like to read?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as popular as space opera, but I write young adult urban fantasy. And if I wrote urban fantasy for adults, I'd make a lot more money, but I wouldn't be good at it. I don't read adult urban fantasy because it's usually too sexy for me.
I get that. Same.
I'm like, oh, those curse words. I have cursing in my books. I just, I also want books that my daughter can read and that it will inspire young adults and
Yeah.
girls and girl power.
And that's
And then also,
respectful. Like that is so cool too. I love that about your books too, because like there's a lot of them out there where, I mean, nothing against the smut and kind of, stuff like that out there. A lot of people like to write that, but I love it when you have like uplifting characters and to encourage and, just give encouragement to teenage girls and stuff. Like that is so powerful because at that age, they're, trying to figure out who they are. And if they can have a role model that can kill dragons or be badass, that's perfect. That is perfect.
I know it's really, and there's another motivation is,
Right.
whenever I know that that's benefiting, and that's a value system for me. So my values are going to be different than somebody else's. And like you said, I don't degrade, people that write erotica.
Right.
But if I went into that, and I know I sat down with somebody that was really, really in the industry.
Yep.
And I won't mention who it was, but they knew what was going to make 6 figures.
Oh, wow.
And they sat me down and they said, if you write romance and you write erotica, you will make the money that you want. And this was when I was really stumbling. Yep. I could do that, but I wouldn't do it well. Right. And I wouldn't like it. Yeah. And my productivity I would look at that ceiling a lot more than I do now, so find what you're passionate about, be really honest with yourself, be willing to take a risk, and then write characters that you relate to, because I didn't relate. I wrote a series that had a bunch of military men in it. I didn't relate to them, you know, and so they just didn't come across for the readers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. That's great advice and everything. I think that's perfect. And I just love your heart behind this too, and how you really care about those girls reading your books. And I just love that. So keep it up.
Thank you. And boys too. I have a young 10-year-old reader, and his mom messages me and says, oh Kayla cool. Loves the books. And, can you send him another one? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yes. That is so sweet.
Thank you. And I'm glad that, you appreciate it. It's passion, right? So do what you're passionate about. And that's
the leading factor to walk away from this video with is that passion, right? That is so important. And I mean, we can see it. I can see it in you. So that's what we all need to aim for.
And I mean, it's all just going to be unique, I think, to each person,
Right.
And it took me a long time to embrace what was me, to be unapologetically Sarah, awesome. So I just, when we're talking about productivity, you got to find that. And then also it's going to change. I don't think I'm going to be the same writer in 10 years.
Sure. What advice would you give to writers and authors who want to make this their livelihood? Like you said, you made this your livelihood. You didn't have a plan B. What would you recommend for authors who, let's say, what would you have for advice for younger Sarah from back then? What would you tell yourself?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't have any regrets, but I mean, there would have been ways to, take some shortcuts to it. And I see some young authors and they're doing everything right. They're figuring out the business end. They're setting up their social media platforms. They're doing everything. Whereas I kind of just fell into it, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember I contacted a blogger when I first started, and she's like, well, you've got a newsletter. And I was like, what's that?
Yep.
So I made my life a lot harder than it had to be. So I think getting an education, 20 books gives so many good opportunities, and understanding the business aspect, because so often I think that we are authors.
Yep.
And so we know the creative side of it. And we're like, oh, this is my passion. This is what I love, but it's a business. So great if you want to be a hobbyist, that's great. Or if you want to write just because you're passionate about it. But if you want it to support you, then you're going to have to take it from a business aspect. And for the first 40 books, at least, I wrote what I wanted because I was passionate about my characters. And those books don't sell because I wasn't writing to market. So I had to learn the business aspect. And people like Joe Solari have helped me to set up my business like a business. I mean, at first, whenever like accounting came in, oh my God, my poor accountant was like, what are you doing? So I was approaching everything like it was some sort of creative Pinterest project instead of like a business. So there's my advice is you want to do this, you might hit it big with a novel and not know anything about social media or newsletters or book funnels or any of these things, but also you might do what I did and spin your wheels for a long time. So there's an opportunity for an education and to learn it ahead of writing the books and ahead of launching the books. But then here's another key is I figured out after spending thousands of dollars on marketing that I suck at marketing. I'm really not good at it. And accounting, I mean, I will be in prison within a couple of years if you let me do my own accounting because I'm just,
yeah, I get that.
my poor accountant, like, I started getting all these hate letters from the IRS and I sent them to my accountant and he goes, you paid them, right? And I said, yes, I paid this department. He goes, you didn't pay the right department. They never got their money. And I'm like, I pushed it back on him. I go, this is your problem. You should have never allowed me to pay anybody. This is the point is learn the business, approach it like a business, find right to market. And I know this sounds contradictory because I'm like, find your passion, do that, even if it's a risk, also right to market. But you got to figure out the balancing act if you're going to do this as a business and learn how things work because there is a formula. There's people that know, there's courses, you know, there's ways to market. So learn that so that you can start to make money. Then once you make money, if you're not good at it, do what I did. I've hired an assistant. I've hired a couple of accountants. I've hired Joe Solari to help me strategize and keep myself accountable. I hired a marketer.
Okay.
And I work for LMBPN. All I do now is write books.
Cool.
And I turn them in and I can't screw up anything.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I would do. So approach it like a business and then figure out experts. And that's the thing is I don't need to be mowing my lawn because I will I'll cut off my foot. So
that would be good.
There's a author that I follow and they talk about your unique ability. And writing's my unique ability, marketing isn't.
Yeah.
So I need to be writing.
Right.
Anyways,
yeah.
Again, tangent, wrong way of answering, but I hope that helps.
Oh yeah, no, that does help. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. So do you ever deal with imposter syndrome? Because I just recently was hearing some writers saying, hey, could you ask some questions about that? And like, you know, if you found anything that helps with that, what are some things that you would recommend if you have dealt with that or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do. And when we were at 20 books, I can't remember what speaker it was, but they said, somebody asked about that question and they said, turn around and raise your hand if you have imposter syndrome. And everyone pretty much in the audience raised their hand, right?
Yeah.
Do you deal with it?
I have. Yeah, I have definitely. So yeah.
And what's the main thoughts that go through your head when you're feeling that way?
Oh man, probably, let's see here, like, oh man, am I any good? Can I do this? Like, I'm probably, that's probably the one that I get, probably.
Yeah. And it's that self-doubt, I feel like, that definitely is going to hold us back. So I've dealt with it.
Yep.
And I think that it was one of the biggest obstacles to my career because I ended up taking a course that was on money management. But it was more about emotions. And it had me go through the scripts in my head because we have so many thoughts that are running. Yeah. And they're what's our operating system, but we don't even know that they're in the background running like a operating system would. And they're creating everything in our life, right? So the course had me go through and literally you become so aware of your thoughts that I was saying things like, I was working with other collaborators at the time and I was like, they don't want me to succeed. They're against me. The readers don't like. There was all of these things and it was a lot of days, but then that was underneath that was, I'm not good enough. There's no way this will work. There's no way you can make money at this. So I had to go through all those scripts and you literally write them all out. So become aware of the imposter syndrome thoughts, write them out. And at first you're going to feel like you're reinforcing them. But then you become, you come to terms with where did they come from? And then you rewrite them. And I would have sticky notes all over the place, but it was And I have one here, and my boyfriend, he teases me about this one because it makes me sound very superficial.
Okay.
It says, I love money.
Okay.
And the reason that I have that there was in the course, they had talked about how sometimes we aren't allowed to love money because that feels superficial, that feels materialistic.
Yeah.
And I had something that said money is for people that are crooks, or women can't make money on their own, or whatever the script
Yep.
was. So anyways, my point is I love money. It to me gives me a deservability. It's
Right.
great. It's great to love money.
Yeah.
And I'm then putting that force out to the universe where I'm just pulling it into me.
Yeah.
I love my daughter, you know, and we have
Yeah.
the best relationship. Love the things you want. Anyways, my point is find the script, rewrite it, and I posted it all over. I deserve to be successful. I am good enough. My books are a huge success, you know, and they were everywhere until they literally were just in here. I love money because that one was one of the central ones that I needed. I need to have money in order to keep doing this one. So hopefully that helps getting rid of imposter syndrome. We just got to get in control of our thoughts and not let them run the show. It really becomes more of an emotional obstacle than it ever became a business, you know, strategic one for me. And I think that's why some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, they read a lot of nonfiction self-help books, things that, you know, help set us up for success and put the right messages into our brain.
Right. That is so well put. Thank you so much for sharing on that. I think that'll be super helpful to the watchers, and I definitely learned something too. So that's perfect.
It reminds me too, because I forget the journey. So I think we're all benefiting. So that's great.
Oh, that's good. So what has been the most difficult thing for you as a writer, like being a writer? What's the most difficult thing? I like to ask this question as a part of a two-part question anytime I talk to somebody. But yeah, so what is the most difficult thing about being a writer? What?
Is there going to be a second part?
Yeah, there's a second part of the question.
Okay, I'm on pins and needles. It's interesting because I feel like I've sort of touched on it by talking about the emotional aspects and figuring it out. But I would also say I'm so glad in so many different ways that my boyfriend is he's a sci-fi writer.
Oh, cool.
Because he gets it.
Yep.
You know, and so that's really been key. But what I will say is one of the reason that I'm mentioning that is one of the hardest things about being a writer is being so isolated, you know, and I know a lot of people, it's funny when the pandemic hit and Michael messaged me, he was like, I'm going to need you to start working from home. And I was like, haha, very funny because we were already all working from home. I've been doing this for a long time. And, you know, it's for me, like I said, it's going to be those emotional aspects. It's going to be the scripts. It's going to be making this, you know, a business as a writer. But one of the bigger things is the social aspects of it. And I stay home for 72 hours and I'll go to Pilates, you know, but other than that, I'm not socializing. I'm not seeing anybody, and you become very isolated. And I live in Southern California and it's sunny out there, as y'all can see. I won't go out probably for most of this weekend. So I think that as writers, it's really easy to be isolated. And I will say that I have a wonderful tribe through 20 books and through my readers and stuff. But my friends that are in Southern California, they don't understand me at all. And do you relate to this? Like,
yeah. Right. The ones that aren't writers, and you love them so much, but they don't get, you know, like I think when I was at the conference, I talked to someone, I was like, you know, back when you're like in high school and college, you're like thinking you're the only odd duckling, you know, that's like this person that loves to make up stories in your head. And then you meet these people for the first time, you meet other people who are the same as you. And it's like, oh, I wasn't that weird person in high school, or, you know, like this is normal because there are more people like me.
Because then you find your tribe. And it was one of the coordinators for the conference that asked me afterwards, what was one of the benefits of going? And I was said to find other people like you that get it, that get, like, I do weird things. Like I wake up in the middle of the night because I hear voices and it's a story, you know, and it's a character. or like I don't want to go out with my girlfriends because I want to stay home and I want to be with characters because I can't wait to tell the story. And it's weird to tell them. And they've called me out before. And I'm like, oh, I can't make it to, you know, happy hour. And they go, you're staying home and writing, aren't you? And I'm like, you know, and I don't have a deadline. It's just that I love it. And my characters are so alive for me. But then I can talk to somebody like you and you can go, I get that.
Yeah.
Whereas my friends, you know, and they'll ask me, they'll be like, what are you working on? And I'll start to tell them, I'm like, oh my gosh. So the fairy godmothers are doing this. And then the dragons, oh my God. And the dragon told the funny, and then they'll just kind of like pull that. And I'm like, never mind.
You weren't really asking that.
I'm watching a new series on Netflix. And they're like, oh, which one? I'm watching it. But you know, it's just, it's such this weird thing to be that isolated. And the workflow. I love that Craig and I have very similar workflows because he gets the deadlines. He gets, you know, the isolation and having to, and the procrastination. So, anyways, as a challenge, it's feeling that isolation, but y'all aren't alone. We're all out here being weird together.
Right.
Yeah. And it's, you know, you have to be alone a lot as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, are you an introvert too? Kind of.
You know, I'm 50-50.
50-50.
And yeah. And so I can be alone a lot. I am fantastic at it. And if I get out, then I have to literally like go back and I call it decompression time.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about
Same.
you?
Yeah, I'm an introvert, but I'm like, I can be extroverted, like when I'm out and about, like, you know, talking with people. I'm not like the kind of person that doesn't want to be around people. I mean, I will go out and be around people, but definitely have to come back and just decompress and stuff. And I mean, I like being around people. I do, but I do like being by myself too. Like if that makes any sense, with my cats and just talking to them. I'm fine with that. So I completely understand where, you know, like you said, this weekend, I probably won't see very many people. Like same thing here, except for my husband and my cats.
But you're okay with that. And I think that, you know, there's a lesson in that for us to embrace, because so many times, you know, I felt guilted, like, oh, staying in with my characters. Or I have a friend that's not a writer, she's a reader, and she would much rather sit at home and read her books than go out and socialize. Good, do it. You know, if that makes you happy.
Right. Yeah, so true. I love that. Perfect. Okay, so for the second part of that question, what's the most precious thing about being a writer? What is something you absolutely adore about it?
Oh my gosh. I got to appreciate this one a lot recently because, like I said, I wrote about 19 books in 2020.
Yep. Wow.
And this year I'll only write 12, and I've taken 3 months off. I haven't taken 3 months off since I was 15 years old and, you know, had a job.
That's great.
It's great. And it's giving me an opportunity to be with my daughter, to be with Craig, to be present.
Yeah.
But I am getting to a point. The most precious thing that I've realized that I've missed is that creative flow, like that moment of, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. Or I call it like inspiration to me is being in spirit. It's finding like some sort of, you know, it doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't have to be spiritual, but it's just like finding some sort of creative cosmic force that like comes through you. I've missed that so much since I haven't been writing. I haven't been writing in about 2.5 months, and I get another like 2 weeks off, and then I get back to it. But that's something that like, it's better than any drug. It just feels so good. And that's keeps you coming back for the passion. So that's definitely the most precious part to me.
Yay. That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. And I bet you're so excited to just jump back into it when you start writing again in 2-ish weeks, you said?
Yeah, after the new year. So actually like 3 weeks. So
okay, perfect. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to hear more about like what your next projects are, and that'll be super fun. That's awesome. Okay, cool. And then, so any last minute advice for other writers that will be watching this video that you want to just encourage them with?
Gosh, I feel like we covered so much. You had such fantastic questions.
Oh yeah. Good.
And I don't know, for me, you know, I feel like we really went over a lot of it, but it becomes about not having excuses, you know, writing out those excuses and finding ways to turn them around, you know, so whatever it is. But just if you love this, like put your whole heart into it.
Thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview with me. And also, where can people find you and your books?
Oh, thanks. So I have a website that people can find my email, or they can find links to books. It's sarahnoffke.com. And then I'm on Amazon. I sell exclusively through Amazon. And like I said, most of my books are with LMBPN, but you can just, search Sarah Noffke. That's N as in Nancy, O, F as in Frank, Ke. And I'm always happy to hear from people. So if they have questions, they can always email me. I'm not really good about responding lately, just because I'm taking a break, but I will.
Oh, that's totally fine. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Well, I will put all the links down in the description below for anyone to find and everything. So that'd be super awesome. So thank you so much for joining.